In this example, we're going to take a look at Solid Edge ST5 simulation, look at something we call mapped results or coupled studies. All along we've been creating studies with linear static, or steady state heat transfer. But what we need to look at now is a steady state heat transfer and a linear static analysis coupled together. And basically what that allows us to do, or gives us the capability, is to use the results of one study to define boundary conditions of another study. So for example, if we come in here and do a linear static, just a standard linear static, and let's just say we apply gravity. Say there's some fluid going through this tube, this water pipe, and then I just apply a fixed constraint on each side. And then I run a solve, and it's going to take a couple of seconds to do this, so I might pause this during this process. And then once it gets done solving, it goes into processing the results. Standard static study that we've been doing for several versions now. And then when that's done, it's going to give us the results from this static analysis, if you will. And the results, we can see, what the results are in the stress, or even in displacement, if we want to look at displacement. And you can see the numbers. What we don't know, though, is in reality, there might be some hot liquid running through this pipe, hot water, whatever the case may be. And so what if we want to couple a study? We know that we got some stress here. What if we heat the material up and couple that with the linear static? What effect will it have on our study at that point? So what you do is you come over to the new study and you pick steady state heat transfer and linear static. And then when you select the OK button, what it does is it provides you with both the structural loads and constraints as well as the thermal loads. So what we do is we'll do the same thing. We'll apply gravity. We will apply a fixed load. And again, this is just a simple example of doing a coupled study. Now that that's satisfied, you notice that the solve button doesn't become active, because it knows that we want to apply thermal to this as well. So I'm going to apply a temperature, and I'm just going to give it, say, 50 degrees centigrade. Pretty hot water running through here, whatever it might be. Then I'm going to apply convection to the rest of the surfaces in the model, minus that surface where the actual heat is. Okay, and then when we're done with that, we will just take the defaults, and we can turn off this information if we need to. And now we'll run this solve again. Now this takes a little bit longer, and I will pause so we don't spend a lot of time watching this dialog, but we'll come back when the results appear. The one thing I do want to mention, once it meshes, it does the solve heat transfer study first. It always does the heat transfer study first. When that information is done solving, then it can apply that also to the static analysis portion of the solving, and then it will process the results. Now it's doing the linear static study, and now it's processing the results. And here are the results. Now, we're looking at stress. And our stress numbers without the heat transfer were much lower. But we also have displacement, which shows a little bit more displacement. And not only that, we also have temperature. So it produces output for, stress, displacement, and temperature. And in some cases, this temperature levels out quite a bit So sometimes you can go to the floating to kind of get the real numbers of where it's at. There's the 50-degree temperature, and you can see the convection. It kind of evens out. It really doesn't get a whole lot cooler through those surfaces. We could add more fins, add more ribs, and maybe help cool this off a little bit. But it does give us a coupled study and some pretty cool results when it's done. Of course, with this you still have the ISO contour, the dynamic ISO contour option if you want to look at that either in the heat or the temperature, or even in the displacement. You can do it in either or. I don't have the surfaces turned on, so we can't do surface, ISO surface. And of course, all of the other options that you've seen. This pretty much wraps up our demonstrations for simulation in ST5.